And we're live. Welcome, everyone. Let me just a moment. Okay. Welcome to today's Hucolo webinar with Tyler Ellison. He's going to be our channel today. And today is Saturday, February 29th, 2020. Happy leap year. And we're going to go ahead and get started with a little bit of chatting first, and then we're going to do some channeling for most of the time. Tyler, how are you?
I am doing very well. I'm happy to have these amazing channeling events as monthly pillars in my own life. So very happy to be back here with all of you.
Great. Well, we always love to have you. You're a great channeler. So do you have any announcements you would like to make for what's going on in your own world?
Yes. We at the Nourish Your Soul TV, you could say business, right? This is the group that I'm working with that's helping to promote all of my channeling stuff and the one-on-one sessions. We have many projects coming up. We're doing every month, we're doing a monthly live paid event, and it is $37 right now for the one in March. And that's going to be on Friday the 13th. We're doing it. And it's a Ryoka transmission where I'm going to go into trance. Ryoka, who is my future self, for those of you who don't know, who's part of the Sasani civilization, a hybridized human race from the future. He's going to be coming through me today, and he'll also be coming through me during the March 13th event, and he's going to be delivering a transmission called Parallel Lives and Parallel Timelines, where he's going to be getting into what he calls timeline conglomerate events, which is where we essentially, in our direction moving forward through time, right, in this here and now, will manifest in, let's say, 100 timelines that have to do with a certain event. And it's like we bring all of those timelines in, our collective consciousness filters them, and then it appears as if we have one event happening on our world. But it's really a multi-dimensional event of many timelines coming together, disguised as one event. It's how we're creating it. And he's going to get into examples of these timeline conglomerates, how to use them. And he's also going to get into a way to access the soul level of your psyche, which can enable you to connect to past and future selves, so you can start to work with your past and future selves like a team, like they become a board of advisors for you. And these are going to be tools that he's going to be giving, and he's going to give a lot of explanation into how communication and dynamics work between the past and future selves. And that's going to be on March 13th. You can purchase tickets for that at nourishyoursoul.tv, as well as you can find my sessions there for one-on-one privates with myself as Tyler, or myself as my future self, Ryoka. That's available there for private sessions, and they're super delicious and yummy. And we have a great deal of projects coming up. We also, every Friday on the nourishyoursoul.tv Facebook page, we have Facebook Lives where I go into channel for 15 minutes, similar to what we're doing here, right? But it's every Friday for 15 minutes, and Ryoka will just take questions from the audience. So if you like the content, you want to get more free content, and you want to stay kind of up to date, right, with the energy readings of the now, every Friday is an opportunity to do so. So I invite you all, for that. And these are the major highlights that we can announce right now. We have some other stuff coming along the way, but we're letting those crystallize a little bit more. But these are the ones that are densified enough where I can offer them.
Okay, great. And forgive me, when you channel Ryoka?
That is correct, sir. I channel Ryoka. Yes, sir.
Say that one more time.
Think of Rio de Janeiro, Ryoka with a K.
Ryoka. Okay.
Yep. Like Rio.
Ryoka. Okay. And do you give opening blessings?
I can give opening blessings. I would.
That's one thing I almost forgot. We want to do some opening blessings, and I want to open up to the room here. Just let me know if you want to do a blessing.
Sure, I would love to. I would love to do a blessing. That would be very exciting. Let's begin. So,
yeah, we'll have you go first if you don't mind.
Perfect. I'll do a little something. Okay. And everyone, if you will, take to a unified group inhale, nice breath in. And hold it for a second and let it out with a ha. We tokai na what's that no tokan lida no ya downing on no na lino no gonna no jino no 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 wana yo do lido tokan no everyone in this now. We thank you for your attention and gift of existence in our co-creative collective moment, eternal blessings of universal galactic abundance that is native to all beings present, awakens in all beings present, and we allow for our truest selves to shine forth in all interactions that we engage with. And many thanks, many blessings.
Thank you for that. Don, would you like to do a blessing?
Sure, I can do one. Thank you very much. Rakatoro, Marakatoro, Nashne Eodoroko Turmada, Yakshotorate Kishike, Torniakite Yoshundana, Nene, Sorak, Tanana Kishke, Toroko.
And how about you, Deb?
Sure. He nahiko o Ryoka utotia siaka inaiko o ne tata I tu saya una iakia tutuatia moka iaki o kataya wa naiko o na tata ito.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the panel that would like to do a blessing? Just jump in. I guess not. Where that concludes the blessings.
So it is. Great. That was great, man. Beautiful. Everyone's got beautiful light language, by the way. I love listening to how unique everyone's is, and they're all. Some of them are so familiar and so foreign at the same time. I gotta say.
Yeah, we have actually groups that get together for light language, and that's all we speak.
That's incredible. So you have just full on, you'd say dialogues with each other using the channeled language and just sort of talking and responding. And is this somewhat accurate?
Correct.
Wow. Oh my, I can only imagine how one must feel after a group like that. Your whole thought process must be so different and so non-English or non-whatever your dominant language is.
Well, it's like one inspires the other, and once we all get going, it just kind of takes off on its own, and everyone just jumps in whenever they feel the urge. It's a pretty interesting conversation.
Have you ever found yourself thinking in light language?
No, I haven't personally.
I do.
You thinking? Oh wow. I don't mind taking a few moments. I think you're all so cool, and I'd love to talk just a little bit. But what's that like for you? Thinking in the light language?
Well, it's usually when I'm in my backyard. I have a portal in my backyard, and it's usually when I'm there, and when I meditate in light language.
Oh, gorgeous.
And it's usually when I'm getting into the elementals, and then I know what I'm talking about. It's all in light language.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Deb, you're also able to translate some, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Ooh, how exciting! Oh, I'd love to see some translations. That would be pretty fun, because it's so multi-layered. That would be fantastic to parse through the subtle vibrations. Well,
You should tune in sometime to this Saturday webinar when Jim is doing it, because Jim interprets all the light language that's spoken during the blessings. He can interpret all of them.
Wow. Oh, that must be wonderful. Oh man, I'll definitely make sure to tune in for one of these Sundays, because that'll be. So I guess before I go in, I'm just going to speak on just a little bit on my journey, how I got into the channeling and where I'm at with it. And the reason I want to share this is because I know a lot of folks in here are channels. A lot of folks in here are energy healers, are mystics, are psychics. And right, I feel like we're all climbing the mountain together, right? We all have our own path up to the top, right? And sometimes when we're on our own path, we could get into like a tight squeeze where we kind of feel we're at an area that's a little stagnant. But when we connect with all the other people climbing the mountain, sometimes what I went through will help what you're going through, and what you're going through can help what I'm going through. So I want to share a little bit about my own journey too, just to, in case on that human level, this is inspiring to anyone. So I started channeling in about 2014 when I moved to Connecticut. I was born in Delaware in the United States, moved to Connecticut, USA, 2014. After a major spiritual activation that my physical character was not very ready for. Like, it was perfect timing, but it was what they call like a Kundalini syndrome. I had like a full-blown activation where, if you could imagine somebody on like psychedelic drugs, but that's just how they are normally, that's like how I was for a month. And it was so jarring to so many people, except my friends. My friends saw it and they knew something good was happening. They were like, you're acting like super crazy, but we can see the shift. Because before I had that awakening, I was living as if I were a terrible person. And I was being terrible to people who loved me and who were wishing me positive intentions. And I was being very selfish, but was so wrapped up in my own selfishness, I couldn't see it. And this awakening shook me the heck loose from that way of treating people. And it eventually portaled me to Connecticut, where I've been ever since. And I have, since landing here, I have dove headfirst into esoteric science, channeling, and I have made that now my career as a professional channel and professional energy healer, utilizing acupuncture medicine as the way to do that, which I will be licensed in after January of this year, once I graduate and finish, which is very exciting. But I started channeling in 2014 once I made it to Connecticut, and it started very small. I just wanted to interpret some dreams, and I thought maybe I could get into a trance and get the meaning. And I interpreted a dream. I did just that, but the content was so rich, so vivid, so personal. I was like, okay, I'm like doing something of value here. So I just kept practicing and kept practicing, and I was meditating on this Pleiadian symbol every night, every morning. And then all of a sudden one day I'm like, I'm going to channel that symbol. And it came right through. A being that others had channeled came right through, named Mira. I'd never heard of Mira, but it was a Pleiadian collective, came right through. And I channeled this group called Mira for probably about 2 years. And I took a break after that 2-year period. And right around 2019, 2020, I started picking it back up again. And then it just started taking off. I joined an Ellison channeling group, and we were all just practicing together. This was last summer, and that was where Ryoka came through. And I've just been channeling him ever since, and it's been spreading like wildfires, and it's a great, amazing blessing and opportunity. And that was how I got into channeling. That was my story of getting into this practice. I mean, it was very much entangled with my own awakening. Around the time I had that Kundalini activation back in 2013, 2014, I was seeing triangle UFOs. They were like showing up. And I have seen, right, these Sasani ships multiple times throughout my life. At first, very distantly during that 2013 period. And then 2018, I saw one real low with a group of people. And I firmly feel this was Ryoka reaching through time, specifically targeting my space-time equation. So me and whoever it was relevant could see his craft and get to know that energy a little bit more. So I've been in contact with him for a bit. And now the connection is essentially telepathic with Ryoka. It's not like I'm like hearing him all the time, but what will happen is I can just close my eyes, get quiet, take deep breaths, and it's like I'm a phone call. I can just ask him things, he'll tell me things, and it's like a phone call. I just have to go into a bit of a relaxed and inner state to achieve it. He'll also just drop me spontaneous realizations. And it's like so obvious because the caliber of the realizations are like so simple, but yet so powerful. And that's how I know it's him. When I'm getting like a realization in my life where it's really simple, really obvious, but super powerful once it's made conscious, that's when I know it's Ryoka talking to me, because that's his style. He'll say stuff, right, that we all know, We're like, oh, duh, like, yeah, you create your reality, like you are the currency, all that stuff. We know it. But when we hear it reflected back to us with such Sasani confidence and we're like, oh, yeah, I forgot I can not only know that, but live that if I choose. And he's here to help us just step back into our own power and remember who we are, what we're made of, and what God, universe, divine being of everything dreamt us here to do, you know, which is to be ourselves, to live as fully as we can. And when we do that, we experience natural harmony across not just the earth, but across many timelines and versions of this universe. And that's just a little bit about me, my connection with Ryoka. And again, I thank everyone for being here. And at this time, I would now love to get started. I can go right in, and we'll do it till you know, till we're not doing it anymore.
Okay, that sounds good to me. We can go ahead and start. And if you would like, if Ryoka has an opening statement, because usually it takes a few minutes to get some of the questions going.
Sure.
If he has like an opening statement he would like to start out with, that would be great.
It's probably going to happen. He's a teacher, and when he's not here doing this, he's teaching essentially hybrid children. So man's got a lot of lectures. Man's got a lot of content to get into. So I'm sure we'll have something juicy for opening.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
All right, very, very welcome. Okay, everyone. Well, I'm going to go in, and I will let Ryoka come out. One moment. Before I begin, I'm going to be extra responsible. My Facebook needs to get shut off if it's on, and I need to turn my phone on airplane mode. I do not want to get a phone call while he's talking. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? We're Gucci. We're Gucci. We're good. We're good. My phone's actually just charging and dead, so we're perfect. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for that small intermission. All right, and we thank each and every single one of you for the co-creation of this interaction, this communication together. It is always our highest joy, passion, pleasure, and excitement to be able to have these types of dialogues with your civilization, your society, representing the idea of a bridge being formed between our parallel reality world and your parallel reality version of Earth that you experience yourselves living within. We are, in that sense, very excited for many of the changes that are taking place within your collective consciousness, because as we scan the energy, we are able to see that many of you are preparing for open contact. For many of you, this is on a subconscious level in which the preparations are taking place, and it's tied in with the idea of your own personal, spiritual evolution and character development. So many of you, as you are climbing the ladder of consciousness, so to say, you are simultaneously aligning with the realities where open contact with extraterrestrial occurs. Because we wish to remind you, extraterrestrial contact is an externalized projection of an energy within you. Remember, physical reality is a mirror. It's nothing but a mirror. And the idea is you begin to see within that mirror's reflection extraterrestrial beings as you become more of yourself. Because as extraterrestrials, as fourth density beings, a blend of physical and non-physical, we are, in that sense, climbing the ladder of consciousness with love and authenticity and respect towards whom we are as the gasoline fueling us as we move up the ladder. It is the idea of being yourself, of following your heart in your word, thought, and deed. That is the propelling force of evolution into the non-physical dimensions and densities. So as you all become more of yourselves, you naturally begin to manifest into your collective reality extraterrestrial beings such as ourselves, because that is how we live. So as you become more of yourself, you're coming into greater resonance with all of us. That's why extraterrestrial contact and open contact is up to all of you. It is all your collective choice, and it's paralleled with your own evolution and your embracing of your natural self, because we remind you that is how you evolve. That is how you grow. That is how you learn, because if you're not being yourself, it's almost as if you don't have the proper glasses on to be able to perceive many of the lessons, many of the synchronicities, many of the gifts that are here for you, that you're giving to yourself because you're creating reality. And when you choose to embrace yourself, to embrace your heart, to embrace your love, which we remind you is all the same thing, you are all three of those things, you could say. As you choose to embrace that level of your being, that signature frequency, that's when you have the ears to hear and the eyes to see that which reflects that you have always been free. That is what authenticity enables. That is what being yourself allows for. For those of you that feel like you're being squeezed by life, that maybe it's a little painful, maybe it's a little stiff and clunky, we remind you the only reason reality is experienced in a painful way, in a way that has suffering, is due to the idea of resistance towards whom you actually are. Now, that doesn't mean situations are not challenging. That does not mean situations are not intense. But the idea is pain and suffering are in many ways manifested by your consciousness into the physical reality experience due to the idea of resisting who you are. And as you begin to allow for who you are to shine forth, the idea is pain and suffering begin to fall away, because they are messengers. They are only there to inform you that some level of integration is required within your own being. And once you choose to integrate within your own being, the messenger doesn't need to stick around, because you got the message. The messenger's done its job. This type of perspective of learning a lesson from a teacher and then the teacher leaving, so to say, to go teach someone else is not just something limited to the idea of individual pain and suffering or emotions or thoughts, because all of those are teachers. It's also expanded into the idea of collective events. Many of you experience within your collective certain realities, certain stories, and you say, what a terrible reality. I hope that doesn't happen to me. Oh, what if it comes over here? What if I get involved in this negative story? And the idea is many individuals begin to get wrapped up in the many narratives that are present during these times, using the energy you consider to be fear. We remind you, these reflections in the reality, just like your emotions, just like your thoughts, just like your pain, these are teachers. Once you've learned the lesson that the global event in the collective is demonstrating and teaching, that global event, that global lesson does not need to stick around. It's the same as any other teacher. And the idea is, when many individuals learn the lesson of the teacher in their own local reality, it's as if that local reality becomes a new bubble of reality that is very detached, very different than the energetics of the narratives that are present within your many earths, which you experience as one earth. We remind you all you're on billions of different earths, billions of times per second. But the way your physical mind works, you create the illusion of being on one planet. Each and every single one of you in this chat room are all on your own unique versions of Earth. Every single one of you is on a different Earth, a literal different planet with different rules, different collective agreements, different versions of individuals, and different potentialities and probabilities. The idea is that even though you're all on different Earths, your different Earths are similar enough in vibration that you create the collective experience of being on the same planet, so you can all somewhat speak the same language and know what one another are talking about and referring to. But as the timelines continue to split, as the accelerations continue, the different versions of Earth will become more and more and more dramatic. And as you stay in the vibration of your preference, and as you act that vibration out through your choices and decisions in every moment, you then align with the idea of a preferential timeline. So when you split off into your own direction, into your own timeline, that is your own creation, that timeline will be a match for that love, for that joy. And that is in many ways how you begin to birth and crystallize what you classically call heaven on earth. Heaven on earth is accessed through your willingness to choose love now and to act that out in all you do, to let go of the little you. And when you let go of the little you, the ego that feels sometimes separate, that feels resistant, we remind you it doesn't die. It falls into place when you let it go and drop it. Imagine you're holding this ego and you say, oh, it's holding me back. How do I put it down? Let it go. Open the energy hand of your being, drop the ego, and it will fall into place. The mechanism that allows for you to open your psychic hand and drop the ego is your choice to embrace your unconditional love. When you choose that, you automatically let go of the little you, allowing it to fall into place so you can see through the eyes of the cosmic you, the divine you. Not that the little you's not divine. However, the heart in that way, the bigger you could say is streamlined very directly with your soul, with your oversoul, with source. So as you shift to the idea of the bigger you through choosing love and acting that love out, that is when you begin to experience the idea of your own enlightenment, your own illumination. That is what the heart allows for. In your esoteric sciences, the heart is equivocated to fire. It illuminates. It shows you the way. It shows others different inspiring ideas so they can also refine their unique way. Because when you shine, you also shine as an example, whether you recognize it or not. An example for not just humans, but many beings. You are all masters. You are all master teachers playing the role of being master students. Many beings are tuning into this reality. Many beings are recording, you could say, the idea of these moments of Earth's development in different types of crystalline networks of information transferring. And the idea is there's literally beings watching you as if it were television. You are literally being observed by multitudes of collectives that are learning from you. They are using many of the techniques and tools and strategies you have all used in your own change and development. And you're literally teaching multiple species, multiple collectives, how they can evolve in a way that is based in love, joy, and passion. And you are showing them that is possible. And it is just one of the many gifts that humanity offers the multiverse. You are very generous, all of you. more than you recognize. There are many gifts you give. We receive many of these gifts, and we are receiving many of these gifts and will continue to. And the reason we can say that is because we understand the trajectory you're all moving. And that trajectory is paralleled with the idea of love-based upward momentum, allowing for you to shine like the teachers you are, so all of your students can receive. We are one of your students, in addition to being a reflection of what you consider to be guidance. We remind you all we do is reflect back to you your own future self, your own higher self. We're in a similar enough vibration that when you interact with us, it appears as if you're talking to your future self. It appears as if you're talking to your higher self. But that's just because that's the level of consciousness our civilization occupies at all moments. We thank you for your attention in the idea of this opening lecture transmission. We will now allow for ourselves to be of service to each and every one of you in whatever way, shape, or form that may appear through synchronicity. Let us proceed with your comments and questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We first have a question from our YouTube group. And the question is, many people are experiencing physical ailments from past life experiences. What should we do to mitigate this? Any info on this topic would be appreciated. And that message was from Mark1.
All right, Mark1, let's begin. Now, we are going to refer back to what we said in the beginning about the idea of a teacher. Pain, suffering, thoughts, emotions, other people are all teachers. Physical elements and past lives, you could say, are two teachers, because yes, there is a, you could say, level of similarity and resonance between what you in this lifetime may be experiencing and what a past self has gone through. That's one level of a teacher. The other level of the teacher is your unique version of that physical ailment. So there's actually two teachers going on at the same time, both containing lessons that are unique, but are entangled to create the experience of what you call a past life bleed over. Now, it's not really bleeding over. The idea is that past version of yourself is maintaining a certain frequency that you are matching in your unique lifetime, in this lifetime, that's similar enough to them where it seems like it's bleeding over. But really, you're just using your energy in the now, in this lifetime, to match that of your past self. The reason many of you do this is because you're actually looking towards your past self for guidance. That's actually why you do it. But because the past self is still going through it, the past self's not really the, you could say, most appropriate being to ask for guidance, but many of you unconsciously do it, and that creates the illusion or the experience of a bleed over. Now, we're going to get a little experimental here with all of you. We think you'll like it. You can always connect to a past self for guidance, and some of them are more refined than others, more equipped to guide you than others. But you can also connect with your future self who has resolved the ailment. And you can match the future self's frequency to experience the illusion of a bleed over with your future self who never had the problem or the ailment in the first place. You shift your vibration to be that of the future self who has always been healed. So the idea is, once you learn the lesson of the past self, once you learn the lesson of the physical ailment, by simply dialoguing with yourself, simply talking to yourself and remaining joyful and open so you can perceive the answers that come from you, once you've received the message, again, the teacher doesn't need to stick around. So once you receive the message from the past self and the ailment, you begin to disentangle from them. You shift your vibration away from that frequency. And then as you begin to connect with your future self, which you can do through imagining the ideal you in every way, shape, and form you can imagine it, in living location, in income, in personality, in skill set, in ability, in relationships. When you imagine that future self in all of those grand dimensions, and you align with that feeling and you act that feeling out in every moment, that's when you become the you that never had the ailment in the first place. And this is a way you can begin to shift from the idea of a past self guide to a future self guide. Both are relevant. One is not better than the other, but one may simply be more appropriate at a certain point within your journey. We thank you for the question. It was delightful to share our perspective.
Next, we have a question from Leela.
All right.
Ryoka, you are a natural teacher. Wow.
And thank you. You are such a natural teacher as well.
I don't like to teach. That's what I can say.
That's all right. That's all right. We remind you you're doing it all the time, whether you like it or not, but that's okay. Let's continue.
My Asasani self name and what I am doing as Asasani.
All right. You're watching you talking to us right now, for one. One moment. We are going to narrate her perspective. She is watching you, tuning into our energy, which is bringing you into greater resonance with her. She's accessing your reality through the idea of what you might call your dream world, which is always active. Even when you're awake physically, your dream world's still up and running. You have a version of yourself in that dream world, a level of your consciousness that's alive and operating. That version of you right now is interacting with her. Should you begin to focus on the back of your head, representing the subconscious, when you wish to connect with her, and connecting the feeling of the heart with the back of the head to awaken the cerebellum with love, it will allow for you to become more tuned in to her energies. In terms of her role, she works, one moment. She works with plants. She works with plant collective consciousness. You could say she receives the stories that the plants of many worlds share, and she collects these stories and transmits them. So she takes the songs of planets, essentially, that have what you consider to be plant life on them, and translates them and shares them, and will work with musicians from our civilization and from other civilizations, as well as artists, to create works of art, works of media that reflect the lessons of these plants and plant collectives whom she is interacting with. Now, in terms of her name, I wish to remind you, we don't have names. At a certain point, we had names, but we were still in the idea of a high third density, low fourth density type of reality experience. We were more physical when our ancestors were using names. We no longer use names. Now, there is likely to be a term, a word, that will act as a symbol to connect with her. Pay attention to the synchronicities that show up when you meditate and act on her energy. Does that make sense for you so far?
Wow. Yeah, perfect.
How are you?
I saw a red orb at night.
All right.
Who is behind the red orb? Is a person or is a ship?
It's not a ship. It's not a person. It's a consciousness.
Who is it?
It's not a matter of who. So to say, at a certain level of being, the idea of a who and a self and the name start to become a little irrelevant. They're still there, but not in the way you experience that idea of individuality here. It's not really a matter of who at that point, because the type of consciousness that's interacting through this orb, you could say, is a collective network projecting itself into your reality. It's not so much it's a one being type thing. It's more of a collective consciousness that is deeply Pleiadian in origin and relates to the idea of elemental energies, elemental beings of Pleiadian systems and the planets that are present. You could look at it in that way as elemental consciousness peering into your reality to collect information so that Pleiadian planetary network could then assimilate and manifest a version of itself based off what it had seen on Earth. So you could say it was a collective consciousness of elemental nature, observing your reality, gathering a feeling, gathering a sensing of the elemental mix on Earth to then transfer that data to the idea of the planetary networks of the Pleiades. So certain Earth vibrations would then be present there. Because we remind you, as Earth evolves, so do other extraterrestrial groups that are genetically linked to Earth. So you have many worlds, many groups of extraterrestrials that are actually creating versions of their worlds that are adopting certain ideas, certain patterns from your planet of Earth.
So elemental means the elementals like elves, gnomes, the nature people?
You could think of it like this, however, a more extraterrestrial version of it. But the extraterrestrial versions of those types of elemental beings, yes, exactly.
That's interesting because I am connected to elementals on Gaia, so that is perfect. So that means it's a connection.
Why they came to you. They
Exactly.
recognized you were working with them. You had the energies alive in your field.
Yes, I love them. They are very strange looking and wonderful, beautiful, strange looking.
We wish to remind all of you that as you begin to connect with the natural world and other dimensions that are overlapping with your natural world, you're opening a door that does not necessarily stay shut once you're finished one particular interaction. It's as if you're opening a door when you have these types of relationships with elementals or multidimensionals. You're opening that door to have the interaction. And then you're saying, I'm going to keep the door propped. And I allow for other beings to come through whom are a match for my own energy. Many of the individuals on your world have fears about leaving the door to the other realities open and getting bombarded with who knows what. We remind you, the only beings that can come through the door are the beings that are a vibrational match for your energy. So it's okay to have the door open. The door is intelligent. As we said, it's not as if you close it, you simply prop it a little bit. And the door, being an intelligent aspect of your own consciousness, will open and close based on the flow of synchronicity. And as you maintain the vibration of your preference, you allow for greater levels of consciousness to come through that door, which is what you experienced with the idea of the red orb.
Mm-hmm. You know, I worry about the human souls who are stuck in low astro, and now we are going to ascension. Is there any, how they are going to make the ascension when they are in low astro trapped? Is there any way?
They're not actually astral trapped. It's just an experience they're creating based off their own energy, and they can shift their own energy at any time. No one is ever truly trapped. You can create the experience of feeling trapped, and that can feel very real and very intense and very challenging, but you're never actually trapped because you're using your freedom to create the experience of being trapped.
All right, so they can move when we are moving to.
They can move whenever they're ready. Whenever they decide, now it's time, I'm ready, I can do this. So it's said, so it is for them.
That's a great news, because that will be a horrible, sad thing for many humans. Okay, last question. Who are the owner of the Lemurian crystals?
There are no owners.
There are no owners.
There are no owners. There are gifters and receivers. And it's a cycle of sharing the Lemurian crystals. They travel. They travel. That's why they've spread all over your earth. That's why 90% of many of the new age stores you have actually offer these stones. They travel. They're designed to travel, so their stories can reach your populations and the energy centers of your planet. So aspects of Lemuria and the version of Lemuria that ascended and did not fall can begin to interact more easily with your reality, so you can create a higher frequency version of your civilization that can mirror the ascended Lemuria, which did not fall. We remind you, there are different versions of Lemuria. Some ascended, some fell. The ones that ascended and continued their upward momentum are currently one of the many groups that are reaching through the web of timelines to your reality, so you can, if you wish, create a version of your Earth that's a close enough match to that Lemurian reality of ascendancy, because for many of you, it represents a highly preferred version of your Earth.
How many protectors are of the Lemurian crystal? That's my last question.
How many projects?
Protectors who protect.
They don't need protection. There are no protectors. There are gifters and receivers. There's no protectors because there's no danger. You can create the experience of danger, which for many of you is equivocated to being out of control or chaotic, but we remind you it's your energy that you control to manifest that situation. So there's no real danger, but you can create the experience of danger, and that is all well and good, and it's available to all of you. But we remind you, danger is a frequency. When you match that frequency, you're using your freedom to create such an event. Now, in certain realities, you could say, because that type of danger energy is present, because the collective's creating it, there were instances where protectors existed, but those were in the versions of Lemuria that fell. The version of Lemuria that did not fall, there was no need for protection because the collective never created danger in the first place.
Right, but they had protectors in Atlantis and Lemuria.
Yes, yes.
Because there was a bad time, that's why all fall, and that's why ended, because that was not all white light.
Yes, but we are reminding you, there are different histories.
Yes.
You have versions of those civilizations that did not fall. If you wish to experience the higher frequency versions, shift your frequency to those versions that ascended. That is why we are speaking on them, because many of you believe there's just one past, and Lemuria and Atlantis fell, and that's just the way it is. We remind you that's one version of your history you're all collectively co-creating. And if you wish to get a higher frequency, imagine the versions that ascended.
So we can say that Lemuria and Atlantis still exist on Gaia on different frequencies.
They still exist, yes, on their own version of Earth, yes. And they're reaching through the Earth network across timelines to interact with yours right now, so you can create a higher frequency version of Earth that can also ascend, as you call it, which again is simply recognizing that you are your reality. That's all it is. Remembering you are the reality and everything within it. That is true ascension, global realization of this idea.
Ryoka, I would like to give you one advice. Please go to Rio, to the carnival. And
we thank you for the suggestion.
You will love
let you know it's on the table.
All right.
There is a probable reality where this is occurring. We thank you for vocalizing it for all to hear.
You will love it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, my
And
dear.
thank you for your gift and your infinite expression, dear one.
Next we have up is Alan has a question for you.
All right. Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. Greetings, blessings, and all that good stuff.
Yes, and more. How would you like to begin?
So I've a couple moments ago, I remembered something that happened 6 weeks ago. It had to do with the webinar 6 weeks ago when I learned I was lucky enough to learn the name of my higher self. But then something later that night, which I'm still having trouble fully explaining, I was just sitting in my room and it's just darkness. And I felt these emotions that weren't mine, but I felt that it was some sort of connection with him. And then there was one point where it got to just this overwhelming feel like joy ecstasy, and I knew those emotions weren't mine, but I was feeling them anyway. So I just like your perspective on what that
Your higher self,
interaction was.
your higher self, which again, you could say is your future self, was reaching through your reality in combination with many of your guides. That's why it felt like it was from another source, because your higher self was bringing to your bubble of reality the idea of many guides from other lifetimes that know you as a soul very well. And they were projecting, you could say, or emanating that frequency of joy and love, so you could choose to match it. So you could have a reference in your mind of what these higher frequency states can feel like, can be like. So they were presenting you an opportunity for you to match that vibration, so certain shifts and changes could then be more easier and accessible for you. Because in that state of being they were presenting, the idea is the reality gets very malleable and very easy to manipulate in a way that is representative of your highest preference. When we say manipulate, we simply mean just changing your attitude, changing your beliefs, and changing your actions. That's all we mean. Now, that is how we perceive that sensation you described to us.
Yeah. And also, I guess another thing I have is that I wonder if there's any significance to this, or if it was just coincidence.
No such thing, but continue.
I think it was a couple of weeks ago where I was laying on my on the ground in my room, and I looked up on my wall, and I saw these things that looked like 4 letters, and it was so clear to me what they were. I looked up what it was, and on one of the entries that showed up, my birth date was attached to that entry of those 4 letters.
Just a coincidence, nothing to see here.
Okay.
Just
so that
kidding.
Wasn't planned.
We are just kidding. We are completely joking and laughing with you right now. That is the idea of, in our eyes, and again, our perception's a little bit different than yours because we're higher in density, but to us, we would say, oh, that's an obvious synchronicity. It's so personal to you. You see? Your birth date associated with a symbol you saw on your wall. It is very personal. Whenever you see something like that, it's all right to give into the sensation of fantasy, saying this is a synchronicity. If it feels like you're dipping your toes into fantasy when you say that, recognize that's okay, and you actually are, because your whole world is a fantasy. It's a fictional, creational story you're all dreaming. So if you feel like when you're considering these perspectives of, oh, maybe this was planned, maybe this was a synchronicity, but you're feeling like maybe it's a little too woo or it's a little too magical, recognize your reality is very woo. It is very magical. It is very mystical. And it's all right to experiment with that perspective, because we remind you, you can't be wrong. There's no such thing. Now, if you chose to say, this experience is just a coincidence, nothing to see here, you will actually shift to a version of reality where that experience of it being just a coincidence, of it having no higher meaning, no higher purpose, that then becomes how you interact with it. It becomes your relationship to it. It becomes your timeline. But when you say, this is a synchronicity, this is a message, that then becomes your reality. That then becomes your timeline. It's literally a matter of perspective. So choose the perspective of your preference to create the preferential reality that you consider to be heaven on earth, if that represents your highest joy. Make sense?
Yeah, but that had to have been planned, because if I had a different keyboard, or even if it was in a different place, the sun would have shone on the keys in a different way, and it would have just been unintelligible light.
Of course, it was intelligence. It was intelligence that organized the idea of the synchronicity, and it was your intelligence, we wish to add. You manifested that. You organized it. You planned it. You simply did it on a higher level for yourself, because you wish to grow, because you unconditionally love yourself. That's why you spend yourself everything.
Yeah, and then building on that, when I think that this happened twice, when I was thinking of that, I looked at the clock and I see 11:11 or 9:11 or 1:23. So it's a synchronicity referencing a synchronicity.
Precisely. You are attempting to help yourself to validate the previous synchronicities through sending yourself more synchronicities. That's your higher self saying, pay attention, pay attention. That's what's going on here. It's to get you to recognize, whoa, wait a minute, something's happening. To put it simplistically, think of it like this. You're in a deep dream, and your higher self is your prompting to become lucid in the dream. And it's sending you symbols, it's sending you stimuli to assist you in furthering your awakening within your own dream of physical reality.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
You are always so welcome, and we thank you so much for your questions and sharing your magic.
Next, we have a question from Kathy Kelch.
All right. Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
Hello. Nice to speak with you again, Ryoka.
Yes, yes, and a pleasure to speak in this way with you as well.
Thank you. I have just kind of a fun question that's just got my curiosity up.
Yes, yes.
I was told recently from another channel that I have a connection to dragons, and I have a connection to Egypt in past lives, both. And I was wondering, are those, well, if you could expand on the dragons, and also are those at the same timeline, or are those two separate timelines?
They intersect. The dragons spanned many timelines, and one aspect of the dragons, you could say, period of time of its existence in that sense relates to what you consider to be Egypt. There's a connection between some of those dragons in Egypt at certain times, and there's many connections with many of the other dragons you're working with that exist in other times and are engaged with other locations. Understand, each region of your earth has its own dragon consciousness that represents the collective consciousness of the different regions in a very naturalistic way. Think of it as a collective consciousness that is manifesting in the form of a dragon that acts as an organizer and a guide and what you consider to be a force of nature within that respective reality and location on your planet. So some of the dragons are connected to Egypt, other ones are not. You have dragons that are from other timelines that are also interacting with you right now. You're familiar with the show Game of Thrones on your Earth?
Yes, very familiar.
Let's just say you have a connection to the character that was called the Queen of Dragons.
Okay, that's what the other channel said also.
You have a connection here. You in many ways present in your energy field, you could say doorways, where these dragon beings are able to co-create very powerfully with you. The dragons in that way can assist in many areas, including transformation, acceleration, amplification, abundance. These are some of the areas the dragons are very well equipped to assist you with, because those are the qualities of nature. Those are the qualities of the natural world, and they act as personifications of those qualities in a very powerful way. So you have, in that sense, doors, you could say, that you've built within your energy field, within your aura, that many dragons access to co-create and dream with you. This is part of what you could consider to be a multi-incarnational mystery school that you are a part of. Your soul in that way, from one lifetime to the next, to the next, to the next, has birthed itself into lineages that worked with dragons physically at certain times and energetically in others, as the dragons went through their own evolution, as the planet went through its own evolution. And because you have so many lifetimes interacting with these beings, being in that sense what you could consider to be a dragon priest and dragon priestess, that large amount of dragon energy and experience with them is highly active within your current incarnation.
I see. Wow. Okay, that was a bigger answer than I expected.
Yes, yes. But remember, you never bite off more than you can chew in whatever you experience.
True. Very true. So what am I working on with them in this current reality?
Well, what are you currently working on in your current reality? That's likely where they are working with you. Would you like to share?
Okay. Well, just
Yes.
helping my
We will
abilities
play
bloom.
with
Yeah.
you. We will expand with you. What
Yeah.
are you currently dreaming and building for yourself? What are you inspired by?
Working towards light language and channeling.
All right. And this is an area where they are assisting you. Understand that when you speak light language, it's as if your words are like a vehicle, like a bus or a train. And many beings can jump into that bus and train as you speak the words. The dragons, in that sense, are going to be sharing with you their version of light language. Now, we are going to give you some hints. This is a hint that is coming from the idea of the elemental connection that your body has, and through tuning into the idea of the body connection, it can assist you in synchronizing with the dragon frequency. So when you channel your light language, the dragons can play a more powerful direct role. Would you like this?
Yes, please.
All right. In certain philosophies of your earth, organs of your body are attributed certain elements. There is a system known as Taoism and Taoist energy, cultivation exercises, and mysticism that is heavily steeped in teachings that came directly from dragons. Dragons teaching people how to use their own energy bodies. This particular perspective that you could say is Taoist in nature sees the lungs as metal, metal representing jewels, raw and refined precious stones and gems. The lungs in that way have a dragon connection, and that is why many dragons in that sense are depicted hoarding treasure. It represents the power of the voice and the lungs having a connection to dragons. Now, some dragons in that sense you could say are forest dragons, they are air dragons, they are earth dragons, they are water dragons. Through learning about the elemental connection to the subtle energetics of your body, it can allow for you to figure out for yourself which organ represents the elemental connection of the dragon being you wish to connect to. The lungs will be present for all dragons, because all dragons in that sense have a connection to treasure, have a connection to what is precious and in that sense powerful within the earth, because they are mineral beings. We remind you the gems, the precious metals, they are literal mineral beings. They are very powerful. And the dragons have an unconditional connection to abundance and power, which is partially represented by the mineral association that the lungs possess in terms of the energy quality of the lungs. As you connect to your lungs more and meditate upon your lungs and breathe deeply and do exercises that expand the lungs and expand the power of your being, like wings, as you inhale, imagine the lungs are like wings, dragon wings. It can allow for you to go very deep into an altered state where you're thinking like a dragon. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you for your questions and your dragons.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Next, we have several questions from YouTube, and I'm going to hand it over to Don to ask those YouTube questions.
All right, let us begin.
Sorry, I was just doing something else. Okay, YouTube questions are, let's see here. Okay, this is from Dark Voss. I heard many time beings talk about prophecy of humanity. What is the prophecy of humanity in the universe? Can you talk about it? Thanks.
It depends on who you ask, but generally speaking, the consensus of the prophecy for humanity amongst extraterrestrial thoughts and thinkers and dreamers and doers is the following. Humanity will eventually reproduce with hybrid species that are close enough in humanity's genetics where reproduction, physical attraction, empathy, and mutual understanding will be very easy. So the idea is humanity at a certain point will reproduce with hybrid beings, hybridized extraterrestrial humans, birthing the idea of a new hybrid race that will travel the stars, that will ascend into non-physicality over periods of eons. And humanity, as you know it, will be very different. And will actually, at a certain point, act as guides, as spirit guides for the new beings, the new species that will incarnate on Earth in a physical way, and will act as guides and travelers and explorers and doers and dreamers throughout the cosmos, working hand in hand with a variety of different civilizations and joining our association of worlds, which we as Sasani are a part of. This, in that sense, is a general consensus in a prophecy-based perspective of what humanity is likely to become should humanity choose to follow its passion, to follow its joy in an individual and collective way. But again, that prophecy is in your hands. It's both predestined in the sense, predetermined, and your free will working together. Because there are realities where humanity becomes that are predestined, you could say. They are destined to occur. But your ability to experience them is based upon your energy and your choices, thus your free will. And that is how free will and destiny blend. You must match the vibration of what you consider to be your destiny to experience it. Because as you know, there are many individuals who resist their destiny. But ironically, they're using their free will to do it and to experience the idea of being out of alignment with their destiny. But you could say, because they chose it and because they lived it, it was their destiny all along. But again, it comes from free will. Now, we are ready in that sense for the next question.
Thank you. That was an excellent explanation.
Thank you.
Okay, next one is from Mimi Clara 75. Greetings, Ryoka. How many species are paying attention to this transmission? Can you name some of the species who are watching us now?
There are literally billions of beings watching with a B. That's right, we said billions. Billions of beings watching. The different species amongst the billions, approximately 600,000 species. Many of which you're not familiar with, many of which we are not familiar with. But we put out a big enough signal, so to say, an open enough signal that many species can tune in. And this is actually as part of our process of how we find new worlds to interact with. We pay attention to who tunes in. And through scanning the idea of the collective energy of the audience in that broader sense, we're able to determine which of those new groups are most ready for open contact. So for us, this is part of our process of exploring the cosmos to determine and see who tunes in and what their response is to the energy stream. Because some beings will tune in and will choose not to match what's offered here. Others will tune in and will choose to match it and surpass it. And those are the beings where we say, oh, look, they're ready for open contact. Now, the beings of familiarity that are present represent the idea of Pleiadian groups, which are a variety of species, some of them humanoid, some of them not. There are Pleiadian groups, there are Arcturian groups, there are reptilian groups, there are Syrian groups. There are, in that sense, versions of the Anunnaki that are not what you consider to be the Anunnaki that are tuning in. And what we mean by this is the following. The Anunnaki, as you understand them, are no longer the same types of beings at all. They have evolved into complete non-physicality. And they play a very different role. They have very different ways of doing things. This group is tuning in, paying attention, because in many ways, we are created as Sasani beings of your genetics. We are a hybridized race that was created through the idea of what you consider to be the hybridization UFO abduction phenomena on your world. So you could say we represent humanity recreating itself because the Anunnaki modified the original species that was here to create Homo sapien, they, as their future versions, are tuning in because they're essentially checking back up on the idea of the species they helped to co-create. And they're very interested because they're watching, in another way, humanity creating itself and then interacting with itself across timelines, across different versions of Earth. So this group is present as well, observing in many ways as guidance and you could say a follow-up perspective. These are the major groups that are involved in the idea of observation and audience at this time that you would be most familiar with.
I have a follow-up to this as well.
Yes.
Is this volume of viewers present only in this universe, or does it extend to all universes simultaneously?
It's not present in all universes. Understand, there are versions of this channeling that exist in certain realities that you could say are less refined, less expanded, and the audience is then smaller. The reason the audience is so big is because the channel is simply allowing for my energies to express themselves as freely as possible. Because we are able to express so freely, it creates a level of openness within the energetic bubble reality me and the channel are creating together. That level of openness acts as an invitation for all of these different perspectives. So certain versions of the universe where this conversation is happening, it is this big and even bigger. In other versions, it's much smaller.
Understood. Okay, I have another question. This
All right.
is from NM and M Reckoning.
All right.
The
Thank you.
question is, how are you? How can we better connect with our higher self to continue creating our own timelines to our own ascension timeline?
Yes. All right. We thank you for the question. Follow your joy, follow your passion, follow your heart. Now, we'll break that down because we know it sounds vague and general and you hear it all the time. When we say follow your heart, we are actually talking about a process. We're going to now break this process down so you can apply it daily and create your dream of reality based in preference and passion. Step 1, tell yourself a story about whatever the situation is you're engaging with, and let that story be representative of your highest version of that experience. So let's say, for example, you're going to go have dinner with your parents. We'll give you a real life example. You're going out to dinner with your parents. Step 1, tell yourself a story. My parents are reflections of the creational energies that birthed me, and my relationship with them is based in synergy, understanding, compassion, love, self-expression, and allowance, and effortlessness in all we say and do with one another. That's an example. That's a story you can tell yourself. That is step 1. Step 2, infuse that story with positive emotion. Imagine one of your most joyful dreams. Remember one of your peak experiences. Go into a state of high frequency love and imagine you're infusing that story with that love. That is step 2. Step 3, allow for yourself to close your eyes and ask your higher mind, ask your imagination for an action that represents that new story. And allow for that information to show up. And when it shows up, take action on it with no expectation of what that action will lead to. Simply take it for the sake of taking it and let that be enough. And if you do that often, if you do that as how you dream up your reality, your connection with your higher self will become so strong, you'll stop to see a difference. You'll cease seeing a difference between your physical personality and your higher self. You'll start to experience them as one thing. We thank you for your question. It was so delightful to again remind you of that which you already know and to share a process that is very universal, very applicable, if you allow for it to be easy It can be easy. It doesn't need to be difficult.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the last question from this period of questions is from Autumn Rose. Her question is, if our contract is to learn certain lessons and regardless what reality we choose to live, will the lessons still be there? Will there be different lessons awaiting in the chosen reality?
Yes, each parallel reality that you shift to, which again, you shift to through your vibration and you experience that as the passing of time. Every parallel reality that you shift to has different lessons that will be reflected to you based off your own unique vibration. Now, you could say certain lessons you have agreed on a soul level to choose, but there's no particular order to that. Understand the order of those lessons, so to say, of those themes, of those experiences is malleable. And it is, in that sense, synchronistically organized in your life based off your vibration in the now. So you will, in many ways, jump from theme to theme to theme, depending on your vibration. And that, in that way, represents how you access certain lessons at certain times. To experience the higher frequency lessons and to experience them in a way that is more fun and more joyful, the idea is simply be in that state you prefer and take action based off that state. Act the state out like a character in a play playing a part. Let yourself do that to ground the energy. If you do not act it out, it just stays up in your head, which is still activity. It still creates. It's still valid, but it's nowhere near as powerful as when you act it out. Now, once you, in that sense, take action on your preference, that is when you access higher frequency lessons or themes. And it's also the same type of energy that allows for you to experience some of the challenging lessons with greater ease and flow and a higher perspective, so you can see the best path for navigation, which again, we remind you, is the path of joy, is the path of passion. We say it's the best way because it's the natural way for you. That's why it feels joyful. That's why it feels passionate, because it's natural to you, and that is your natural state. We thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm over to Ian because I do realize that there are questions on the panel. Thank you.
All right, and thank you so much.
Next, we have a couple of questions from Krelak.
All right, let's begin.
I said that okay.
Hello,
Greetings and good day. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
We are ecstatic and joyful, and we are so excited to engage with you. How may we be of service to you?
Well, as you know, there are different species and different races throughout the galaxy.
Yes.
There are these S-pods of this galaxy, and there's the Ellison Zendi of the Andromeda galaxy.
Yes.
But both will fall under the species category of reptilian.
Yes.
My question to you is, do humans fall under a species category? Like, my understanding is that there are other human-looking races, such as the Kior.
Yes. Yes.
Do they or do other races fall under a species category similar
Right.
to us humans here on Earth? And if we do, what would be that name?
It depends
Would
on
that-
the unique species category. Remember, there are, as we have said, hundreds of thousands of different types of species of extraterrestrials, and it's very complex. Not to say it's hard, but it's complex in that some of them have their own names. Some of them have their own languages. Some of them do not have a language. Some of them do not have a name. Different groups have different names for different groups, so it depends upon who you ask in the universe. Understand so far?
Yes.
Yes. And this is partially, in that sense, just an example of how diverse all of the perspectives are, how diverse all of the different cultures are. And you have many examples of that in your own diversity of culture on Earth. It's even more diverse and expanded within the cosmos. And different beings have different names. Different beings have different ways of, you could say, umbrella-ing certain species. One group may say, yes, this species belongs in this umbrella category. But another culture, another group may say, no, they don't. We've looked at the genetics and they look like this. And the idea is that different beings, different cultures have different ways of seeing the universe. So it always depends on who you ask. But yes, humans, generally speaking, are seen within an umbrella category that represents beings from Vega, beings from the Pleiades, Anunnaki, Gray, Orion, Yael, Sasani, Anuet. There are, in that sense, many beings, many groups that are a part of what you could consider to be the idea of the umbrella category for what you call human.
Okay, well, that makes sense. And I had one more question.
Yes.
I remember flying past Jupiter at one point, and I noticed that it looked pretty crowded. Is it usually crowded around the planet of Jupiter in the solar
Yes.
system?
Yes, yes, it is a big planet and a big way station, and it is a big donor of energy. The eye of Jupiter, in that sense, is a portal that siphons out energies and beams out energies, and many groups will come to the idea of Jupiter at different times to assimilate these energies and use them in a variety of different ways and bring those energies to a variety of different locations in the cosmos, because the type of energy that Jupiter emits is very rare and is very balancing for plant life on your world and growth and development and expansion for your world. That's why it's here to act as a stabilizer and an amplifier of those qualities. So many beings will come when the eye, in that sense, protrudes those energies, and they will in that way synchronize with those energies and internally and technologically gather those energies so they can be brought and beamed and shared to a variety of different locations. Some beings will use the eye in that way as a portal to jump into other planetary networks that are of resonance with the idea of the Jupiter energy.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Thank you for answering my questions.
And thank you for your creative questions. Good day to you, and our thanks for your existence in this way.
Next, we have a question again from Kathy Kelch.
Hello again, Ryoka.
And greetings and good day to you once more, dear one.
We had another question pop up. We were chatting privately, me and another member, after you spoke, and her name is Lily. And are her and I connected in any way?
Yes.
Can you explain how we are?
By being on Earth at the same time and having access to the internet and sharing the same type of body, as well as, all right, now we'll get to the exotic, as well as being soul family, as well as sharing incarnations with one another in a variety of different universes. In a variety. As we scan your energy, it's as if you are on vacation and you're taking a tour through different incarnations in different universes. Many beings will choose to incarnate time and time and time and time and time again in the same universe because that represents a powerful soul theme. Your soul theme is entangled with the idea of multi-universal perspectives. That's what your soul is going through. Your friend, in that sense, Lily, also, you could say, has been taking this multi-universal tour with you across many lifetimes. And that's because your particular soul family group is working to create the idea of a new universal experience. So you're gathering as much information as you can from different lifetimes in different universes so you can assimilate that information within the soul perspective and dream an even more expansive universe with multiple soul family groups that are also looking to expand in that way. And this is part of your connection with her.
Thank you.
And thank you for your question.
What is our dragon connection together, please?
Again, as we have said, multiple incarnations in Dragon Mystery Schools. You remember this idea?
Of course.
Let's just say your classmates not just in this lifetime together.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. And thank you. And you, 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 and all of you. Thank you.
Don, you have another question from YouTube?
I
Or
have
two?
I have a few. Okay, let's see here. Okay, okay. This is from AJ. Can you give advice on how to forgive someone for their wrongdoing against you?
By recognizing you're actually not interacting with the same person who wronged you, quote unquote, in the first place. And we remind you they did not actually wrong you. They're simply helping you to have a challenging experience to propel your growth. So they never wronged you. You manifested them in as a teacher. They're technically your ally. So first and foremost, begin to see them as assistants. Don't look at them as a problem unless you really want to experience them as a problem. See them as assistants. That right there will change it up. Go into a state of gratitude and say to yourself, wow, look, I am at a pivotal point in my journey where I am ready for a challenging experience. And that's why this is here, because I am being prompted to take a step that maybe is a little challenging for me, maybe is a little intense, but because it's challenging and because it's intense, once I take that step, I will have a bigger and more comprehensive point of view of myself, and I'll be even more integrated, more aware of my power, and I'll have more access to my power. And this individual, this teacher, is assisting me in that process, and that's why they're here in the first place. And that right there will begin to shift the idea of that energy dynamic. Now, we're going to return to our original point. They're not the same person in the now that they were when they wronged you. They're literally different people. We're not being metaphorical here. We're not being poetic. They are literally a different person on a different earth.
On a
With
different timeline.
Yes, exactly. With a different history. It's as if, in that way, the person whom you're interacting with in the now that you remember wronging you actually has, in that way, a different history completely, where they may never have even wronged you in their own history. But if you project the old version of them onto the current version, then you're simply going to be repeating that old theme. But when you see them as brand spanking new, and you see them as someone who's never wronged you, but is actually acting as an ally and an assistant to you that you called upon in a higher way, you will only experience them as assistants, because reality shape shifts to match the story that you tell it. And your story is what you tell yourself. It's what you feel about what you've told yourself, and it's what you do with that story in an action-based way.
Okay, and the next, thank you very much.
And thank you.
The next one is from Kina Alam. Why can we not match our dream reality without matching the frequency, in brackets, taking action?
Because if you're not matching the energy of your dream reality, you're matching the energy of something else. And that something else is what you're going to be getting, because that's how you create reality. It's a matter of frequency. It's a matter of vibration and resonance. And you create in your physical reality experience that which you are resonant with. And if you're not resonant with your dream reality, then you're unable to perceive the dream reality, except maybe in the idea of your imagination. But if you can perceive it in your imagination, that in and of itself is evidence that you have a connection to it and that it's available to you for creating. You are familiar with the idea of a pipe dream? Someone who's always just dreaming, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, my reality will look like this. Oh, it will be this good. But they never take action, and they stay in their parents' basement till they're 47. That's what it's like if you don't take action on the frequency. It's just a pipe dream. Now, that pipe dream can feel very good. It can be very inspiring, and it's intrinsically valid in and of itself, but it's not the completion of the manifestation. It's the beginning of the manifestation. It's designed to put you in the state to take the action, because that's how you create. You're a physical being. We remind you, you're physical beings. Physical action in that sense is so resonant with that fundamental quality of your physicality in this way that it acts as, in that sense, a bridge from one reality to the next. The action in and of itself is a portal, a physical reality portal. Just as you have energy portals, it's a physical reality portal. Of course, it is based in energy. Of course, at the deepest level, we are all non-physical in that sense, pretending we have some amount of physicality. But regardless, the symbolism in your reality is physical. So a physical action represents manipulating, shifting the deepest level of your physical reality to reflect the energy of whatever that action was based in.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Okay, the next one is from Jose Vasquez. Greetings. What can you tell us about the coronavirus?
We knew this one was coming. It's a timeline event. What you consider to be the coronavirus is the idea of a collective manifestation that is, in many ways, you could say, a funnel. There are at least 77 timelines associated with what you call the coronavirus. All of those timelines are coming together and they're being filtered through your version of Earth's collective to create what seems to be one version of this scenario. But there are actually about 77 versions of this scenario running simultaneously. You receive and experience in your reality whichever one you are the vibration of. There are, in that sense, within the 77 or so timelines, it fluctuates, but approximately 77. Within the idea of all those timelines, there are some timelines where the coronavirus, in that sense, never existed in the first place. There are some timelines where, in many ways, it has already been, you could say, cured. There are other timelines where it's actually not a virus at all, it's something different. There are other timelines in many ways where it relates to certain technologies. There are other timelines where it relates to the idea of simply an emotional purging. There are other timelines where it's associated with the idea of nefarious people. There are some timelines where it's associated with simply higher learning and higher spiritual experiences through the idea of a virus. And that is a teacher. Understand, there's about 77 different versions of this playing out that are funneling together so they can all simultaneously interact with your version of Earth. As you manipulate your vibration, as you choose your vibration, you're sifting through, you're parsing through all of those different timelines to the one that's a match for your preference. So be in the state of your preference. Take action off your preference and ask yourself, again, what is the message here? What is this teacher that I call a coronavirus teaching me? What is it teaching my collective? Once you've received the lessons, ask again your higher self for actions you can take that represent you having learned the lessons, you having remembered what you needed to remember. And as you take that action, you shift to that preferential timeline. And as we've said, once you get the lesson, the teacher doesn't need to stick around.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Okay, I'm going to return control back to Ian right now because I see that there are some questions from the panel. Thank you.
Yes.
Blessings.
Thank you and blessings to you, our friend and brother.
Yes, our next question comes from Alan.
All right. Hello, Alan.
Yeah, just wanted to get your perspective on another thing, because having to do with the relation between music and vibration, because there's some types of music on Earth that, how can I say this, achieves its goal through misdirection. In other words, to get its listeners to have a, in a good mood, good mental place afterwards, it'll immerse them in sort of like rough, almost aggressive, not negative because it's all subjective, but I was wondering, how is there any risk that comes with that method of kind of music that instrumentally misdirection, meaning that kind of like immersion therapy, so to speak, in terms of relating to negativity so that way you can then release it? And is that, yeah, I just want to get your perspective
All
on that.
depends on how it's used. If you approach what you consider to be negative with love, even that in many ways is not quite the equation for transformation. When you call something negative and then you're saying, I'm going to love that, there's a subtle implying that I need to change this thing because there's somehow something wrong with it. When you put the label of negative on something, even if it looks like your expectation of negative, you're energetically pigeonholing it. And you can share love with it all you want, but you've put a limiting label on it, thus restricting your ability to go create a different version of it. So first and foremost, we encourage you, release the idea, if you will, of defining something as negative in the first place. Define it however you wish, and then share love with it to receive the positive effect. Now, with music and vibration, the idea is it acts as an amplifier. There are certain musics out there, such as heavy metal music or hip hop music, that is very rhythmic, very percussive, sometimes very quick, sometimes very dark in nature. You can experience that darkness without it being negative and without it meaning something negative about you and your life. Because we remind you, you contain darkness. And that's not evil. That's not wrong. That's not bad. That's just life. That's just the way life is. Partially dark, partially light, partially neutral, blending and dancing in different ratios to create different realities and different experiences. That is life. So if you choose to experience darkness, you're simply experiencing life. And it doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be segregative. It doesn't have to be aggressive or mean or hurtful, because you can experience that darkness and put a positive meaning onto it with the structure technology of belief we have demonstrated throughout this transmission, or your own process of imposing a positive meaning. And you can then only receive a positive effect, and those who observe you in that state will receive whatever effect they receive from observing you based off their belief structures about what you are doing. In that sense, you're not really hurting anyone, and you're not really in that way turning evil. You are simply experiencing a different point of view of life, and if you use it in a positive way, it can only give you a positive effect. It can be used as a transformation tool, because the idea of some of the music genres that like to embrace darkness, because they're so rhythmic, because they're so percussive, because they inspire movement of different types, they assist you in the acceleration, the transformation, and the movement in your body of the energies that you consider to be darker, so they can become processed and integrated with the idea of your consciousness, which we equivocate to light, using the consciousness to shine light on what is unconscious or what is dark, because you can't see it. That's why it's unconscious. And integrated with the idea of your consciousness, which we equivocate to light, using the consciousness to shine light on what is unconscious or what is dark, because you can't see it. That's why it's unconscious. And integrated. Oh, good. We've had to say it twice.
Yeah.
We thank you for the question. Let us continue.
Yes, thank you.
You are so welcome. Is that all for you?
Yeah, yes, that is all for me.
All right. We thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you.
Next, we have a question from Leela.
Okay. My question is, did I get any downloads recently?
Yes.
Oh,
Downloads, whenever you're having a sensation of inspiration, you're getting a download.
what did I get?
Why don't you find out?
Because I am lazy.
Oh, so you want us to be your personal sidekick where we just tell you what you are designed to already tell yourself?
Yes, because
All right. Put a quarter in the slot and I'm going to begin my mechanical machine sidekick action at the carnival. All right. What I see in my crystal ball for you, dear one, is the following. You're learning how to validate your own direction and say, this is what I'm doing. And knowing that what you say and what you do is your truth. What you say and what you do is your truth. You can live a half truth by saying something and not doing it, or you can live in your personal truth by being the living simulacrum of your dream, of your truest self. So when you tell yourself the story and then you take action on it, that is living your truth. You are learning to live your truth and not the truth of others. Not that other people's truths are wrong, but we remind you other people are creating the truth based off their belief systems. Those belief systems may not be in alignment with your preference. So you're learning how to differentiate between the truths of others, which are equally valid, but may not be your preference, and the truth of yourself, which again is the story you tell yourself and the actions you take that reinforce that story. You are learning to live your truth. And you are learning to inspire others how to live their truths as well. And how all truths can be simultaneously true. That one does not need to compete with one another. One is not better or worse than one another. One is not more right or more wrong than one another. They are all subjective because the truth is subjective. And that is in many ways the biggest misunderstanding amongst many of your conspiracy theorists or the idea of your deep web researchers looking for the truth. There are billions of parallel realities. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of timelines constantly intersecting. You will find evidence for whatever your belief systems are. We wish to remind all of you this. You will find evidence when you research that reflects your belief systems because you're creating that evidence with your own consciousness. This again is tied into that idea of your truth versus the truth of another. The narratives in your world and the perspectives of your world that seem to be fear-based, they are still truths, but they are the truths of those whom are imagining the scenario in that way. If you don't wish to experience it in that way, choose a different truth that's based in your own preference. Create your preferential reality. Use the tools we give you, or whatever tools you are inspired to use. And this, as your personal crystal ball carnival psychic, is our message to you about your downloads and how you can more easily use them to create, again, your preferential reality.
I live my truth from the age of kindergarten. So I am going to continue to do so.
You did what now at the age of kindergarten? Can you repeat yourself?
I live my truth of the age of kindergarten. That means from very young. And I really do not care what others are thinking.
And remember, love the truths of others. They're not attacks. They're not assaults. They're not trying to force anything on you.
Well, the point is to live their own truth. That's the idea.
Yes.
And the others have their own truth, and that is another idea. And that's the idea, perfect idea itself. That means I always live my own truth. I didn't start yet in the old age living my truth. I live from the very young. I got a blessings. I prepare a blessing from the Asasani animal kingdom. Can you please call them?
Are you really having us do your work for you?
No, I have the blessings prepared. I have a message.
You
I have a message for the animal kingdom of Asasani.
Yes, yes. One moment. You've received the blessings, and now are you asking for a message from them?
No, I am going to say a blessings for the animal kingdom
All
for
right.
Asasani. What
Thank
I prepare, I have written. I
Thank
was meditating about it.
All right, all right. If you wish, you may hear it. That's all right. We were just working to understand you. The audio can be a little fuzzy, and the channel's ears have to translate a little bit more. So we have to ask what you say sometimes. We understand. We thank you for the blessing.
Are they here? Are they here? The animal kingdom of Asasani. Did they gather around us right now?
One moment. One moment. One moment. One moment, please. One moment.
Of course.
They are asking if you can share this. One moment. As a closing. Is that all right with you?
Wonderful. Well, I will.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are all very excited.
Oh, I love them.
All right. Anything else at this time?
No, nothing else.
All right. We will return to you as we close off the transmission. All right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple more questions from YouTube, and that will probably we'll take one or two more questions, and that'll probably wrap us up for the day.
All right. Thank you. Let us proceed.
Okay, thank you, Ian. This is from Kim Lackey. When I am feeling down emotionally, does it affect my hybrid children? How are they doing? She asks.
They are doing quite well. Understand, they feel when you are in the idea of, you could say, a lower emotional state, or maybe a state that doesn't feel very comfortable. They feel it, but it's not as if it's negatively impacting them. They feel it in the same way you could feel the wind, and you can simply put on a jacket and say, wow, it's windy, but I feel great. That's more or less how they experience the idea of what you are feeling. Now, they feel it intensely because they are genetically linked to you, and they communicate through genetics from their parallel reality in the high astral, in the idea of a fourth density type of perspective, and the idea of your reality. It's the DNA that acts as a bridge. Your hybrid children are growing very quickly. Many of them have great deals of friends, some of them hybrids, some of them other species altogether. They are in a, you could say, learning program that is taught by the idea of the beings we have called the Yakyel, as well as a variety of other species and beings that act as teachers in classroom settings, and they together collectively teach and learn with one another. Your hybrid children have visited you multiple times in a quasi-physical overlay of your physical reality. Similar to a hybrid dreaming version of your physical reality. They have visited you here. They watch you. They learn from you. And they also, in that sense, work to emanate into your reality so you can match it, the idea of their energies of love and transformation. So you can tune into those energies and more greatly use them in your own process when you are feeling down. They are here to help you. And you are already seeing this with many of the physical children that are here. They are highly empathic when they see their friend or their teacher or their parent sad. They go up and hug them. The hybrid children are no different. And they can play that role with you. It's simply a matter of the imagination. Imagine you're receiving love from them. Imagine you're receiving hugs from them. Imagine they are laying in bed with you. They are cuddling with you. They are playing with you. And as you hold these imaginings, you'll find your imagination may start to talk back. And that is all we will say on the matter for now. But have fun and play well, because you have some really fun beings that you have helped to create through your love and through your generosity, that love you dearly and are always here for you and are always here with you and are with you right now and are emanating through our words as we speak. And they thank you for your strength. They thank you for your love, and they thank you for being yourself.
Okay, I have just one last question, and then we'll break for the rest of the day. This is from Jose Vasquez again.
All right.
Greetings and blessings to all. Venezuela is currently going through a deep political, social, and economic crisis that is affecting us in unimaginable ways. Do you see any way out of this crisis? Thank you.
All right. There are a few things we can say about this, and we are going to be describing this in our upcoming transmission, Parallel Lives and Parallel Timelines on your date of March 13th. But we will describe this to you now because we understand it is a matter that for you may be urgent and may be intense, may be challenging. Those of you that are in the location and are dedicated to what you call Venezuela, if you find it inspiring to stay in Venezuela, to create a positive shift, to be a light in the darkness, to be the eye of the storm, the center point where others can take refuge and shelter so they can become their own eyes of their own storms and take refuge and shelter, then understand there is a role for you in this location. In that way. You also have, in that sense, if it's feasible for you, if you're able to do it, if you're inspired to do it, if you're inspired to do it, for some of you, the option may be to leave. Both are valid and both can create positive realities. It depends on which action is most inspiring for you. Because it's the same thing with people. When you are with an individual who maybe is being a little disharmonious, you can be that light to them. You can be that shining example to them, and they then have an opportunity to shift. But if they're not choosing to shift, and it's not exciting for you in that way, to stay and continue to emanate that light towards them in that way, you may find the most exciting option is to simply walk away from the person, to go do something else that's inspiring. The same can be said for what you're experiencing in Venezuela. So remember, there's no right or wrong way to handle it. It's your country. We remind you, it's your country. We'll say it one more time. It's your country because a country does not exist without people. It's your country. We remind you of this. It's your country, not out of greed, not out of ownership, not out of segregation. This is mine, not yours. It's your country as a collective. It is your collective playground. It is your collective dream world. Love your country. Love your community. Love your people and be that center point and operate from the center. Be the eye of the storm. Be, in that way, the spiral, the center of the spiral. Let yourself be this. And this is our suggestion to you, and we thank you for inquiring with us in this unique way. Our unconditional love to you, always, and to all people within your dream of Venezuela. We thank you for your gifts.
And that concludes our questions for today. Ryoka, would you like to leave us with a blessing?
We will allow for the animal blessing to be made in combination with our blessing. At this time, the one who wishes to make the animal blessing, please speak up and be bold, and we will commune in a very exciting way together in this space that can act as a permission slip for all members of this live stream and all those who attend to integrate very deeply with the animal consciousness of Esasani. Please begin.
Beloved Asasani Animal Kingdom, this blessing is from my father, the great dragon, and all dragons in this universe. May the fire of creation burn with love in your hearts for each other. In the cold nights of your existence, join us in the circle of light and eternal light. Love you.
The animals are responding in song. If you could imagine the sound of your rainforests, all of the animals in concert, it's like this. As a whole collective, multi-species, they sing together with you, with us in this space, with your earth animal kingdom. through this blessing, you are holding space for the animals of your earth to go further in their own deepening and in their own exploration of who they are as beings and as collectives. And the idea is that there is always constant communication between the animals of your earth and the animals of our planet of Essasani. You are strengthening that bridge. When you interact with your animals, if you wish, as a permission slip tool, you can begin to imagine you're actually on Essasani and you're seeing an Essasani animal. That will help you access the telepathic link to the animal beings whom you have blessed. We will now share our closing. Family, descendants, ancestors, all here, all now, holding space for the eternal growth and expansion of the heart-based collective consciousness that represents the lineage of the human story, beginning in the stars, expanding to other stars, traveling to Earth, expanding again into the stars, like a breath of air, inhaling and exhaling. The human journey to Earth is the inhale, and the cosmic exhale is the divine expansion of humanity back into the stars, back into the idea of different galaxies. We are here with you in all times and all ways to assist in the balancing of your planetary energies, so you may have a more stable environment, so you may have a more stable foundation to be able to then root in with your stability and launch yourself into the idea of your truest nature, your personal North Star. And it is our joy and it is our passion to be continued guides to all of those on Earth in this unique way. On behalf of all of us and the hybrid children whom we are with, we bid you all a good day and a pleasant dream.
Thank you very much for that, Ryoka.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, beautiful people, friends, family. Love you all. Fantastic transmission. I can't wait to share this around. This is very, very wonderful. Great questions of all who asked. Very well done.
I was going to ask you at some point if you needed some water because you were doing an awful lot of talking.
I know. Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. My mouth is like the Sahara Desert, but I am fine.
Okay. We're going to close with a few blessings. I'm going to ask to go in the order that I received them in. Don, did you want to go first? We're going to go Don, Alan, and then Christy.
Yes, okay. I'll go first. Katara kadoshnia kadoshnia si autor nale eso no puse ta anamha sa auto.
Thank you. Alan, you want to give it a go?
Yep. Blessing debut. Aya porrefia ya suya. Ponya ara una higada. Ya salabaya. Una aya turos.
Thank you. And Christy, I haven't heard from you in a while. Looks forward to your blessing.
Hello, Ian. How are you? You're
I'm
welcome.
doing great.
Great to see you. Ja ta kuusukua ia ta autosukua kata usukuia kata ia ta katutusku akutia ia shaka ata eu ku aki ututusku aki tataya ia ututushika o askuto osu akutuski kata ia ta ia usuku aki tu usuku ututushika ia ta ia utusuku ia itosuku kata.
Great. Thank you very much. Tyler, you were wonderful as always.
Oh, thank you. I had a true blast being here with all of you, and man, so many great people. I'm so happy to be on an earth where there's so many beautiful faces and hearts of joy and passion, man. It's great to
So
be.
you're going to be with us again on March 14th, if my calendar is correct. Is that right?
How exciting! The day after my my live transmission. That's going to be so great. So for those of you that want a double whammy of Ryoka, come on in for the Friday the 13th, and then it looks like we got a Saturday the 14th on there, it appears, which is amazing.
I want to mention your website again. We probably have quite a few more people watching right now than we do.
So if you want to get a session with me, if you want to learn how to channel, if you want to make really powerful steps in your life, and you like me and my guides as assistants, please visit nourishyoursoul.tv. nourishyoursoul.tv. And my agent and business partner, Michelle Copeland, she's on there too, offers fantastic services, major transformational coach. I have seen her help people in intense situations. Very, very good. You know, come there. You'll see a variety of different practitioners, a variety of different trainers, and we are building Nourish Your Soul TV up to offer what we consider to be the best of the best for helping people through the web and through the astral connection to take steps forward. So please visit us there. You can get privates with me. You can learn how to channel with me. You can even just talk to me. I do Tyler sessions too, just as myself. And I work to help cultivate wellness. I do my own intuitive readings that are different than Ryoka's, but obviously there's a connection there. He interjects and we'll share. But that is where you can find me, my friends.
Okay, great. So that concludes our transmission for today. And we'll be back next week with Jim Charles, our very own Jim Charles. And I have one announcement to make, and that is I'm going to go ahead and show you our book from the Galaxy with Love, and that's by Max Rempel and Jim Charles. That's available on Amazon, in Audible as well as in Kindle and audible.com.
Great.
So thank you everyone in YouTube, and I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast.